I'm Gunjan Abed.
I'm Mark Pagula.
I'm Brendan Buck.
I'm Anthony Simonelli.
I'm David Fromm.
And I'm Kevin Kaczynski. Today we're presenting case 11 for horticulture.
So a little background on the company. They are a wholesale nursery business, and it is owned by Bob and Maggie Brown. They purchased the company from Maggie's father for $999,000. The company owns approximately 52 greenhouses and 40 acres of production fields. The company employs 12 full-time employees and 15 seasonal employees. The nurseries are willing to pay a premium for instant landscape, which are just more mature plants. So Bob was looking to bring that more into the product mix, more mature plants. And the company was hoping for a 30% growth rate in 2006. So horticulture's profit margin increased from 2003 to 2005 by about 2.7%. Maggie, being more the finances within the company, she was trying to avoid bank borrowing, so they didn't have any debt. She also wanted to pay her suppliers early, within 10 days, so she could receive a 2% trade discount. The company was concerned with potential rise in interest rates, along with margins relying on the wage rate of $8.51 per hour. And then they're also worried about their low cash level in 2005. It was actually below target of 8% of the annual revenue.
So if you're doing a financial analysis of ornament horticulture, we'll actually be able to figure out how it actually led up to their low cash balance and why that could be a potential problem, not only for the short term, but also for the long run of the company. So by looking at their financial statements, we were able to conclude that their cost of goods sold ratio actually decreased from 51.1% in 2002 to 48% in 2005. And now this can be summarized by many different factors that played into their cost of goods sold going down. But what really sparked in our heads after reading the case study was Bob's vision for the company and how responsive he was to the customer's needs. So Bob came up with the idea that the customer demand is really looking forward to what's called an instant landscape. And now an instant landscape relieves all the pain from the customer of planting flowers and waiting for them to fully bloom and mature. So Bob cut that right out of the process and started charging a premium for the customers. So when they would buy from their land, they were already paying for something that they could immediately put into their yard or put into their garden, and it'll already come to life. So Bob found out that when the customers really wanted that instant landscape, they will pay whatever for it. So Bob also improved his bargaining power by that led to their net profit margin, which was 5.8%, and that was in relation to a benchmark of the horticulture producer average of 2.8%. So going along with the increase of revenue, this also led to why ornament horticulture's profit margin was nearly double what the benchmark was. So by Bob being able to expand his product mix and to charge higher prices for more of a quality landscaping feel for their customers, that instantly gave him more bargaining power for price, and the customers loved it. He was also a very people-pleasing person, so he was able to understand what they wanted, and they loved that about him, and more importantly, they were able to trust him with the type of product that they were selling. So ornament horticulture actually has a 5.1% return on its assets compared to the benchmark's 2.9%. So as told earlier about Bob, he's a people person. He cares about his customers, and he wants to ensure that whatever product or whatever service that he had delivered to them, they would have the utmost respect for him and continually doing business for him. So by their assets actually producing more of a return, this can conclude that they're putting their 52 greenhouses and their 40 acres of field to actual use. Now with the benchmark and the other horticulture producers in the industry, we cannot necessarily speak on their behalf of the reasons why they're not producing as much, but certain factors can play into it, as they might not even be as responsive with the customer's needs, so they're not even really understanding what they want, or they just frankly do not care and they don't share the same passion to fulfill all their customers' desires, and maybe they're suffering from adverse weather conditions or just malfunctioning equipment, and they're just not being profitable because they're not even able to correctly use the amount of assets they have. And thus leading to a cash balance that has actually dropped 92% since 2002 to 2005. Now going through the other financial statements, we were able to see that Hortiman Horticulture was actually excelling compared to the benchmark. But by looking at such a low cash balance, this appears to be an issue with their receivable policy and their payables policy. And so now their accounts receivable has also increased 22.5% in the last year. Now this is due in part by their receivable collection period, which is 50.9 days. And that's nearly twice the amount of time, more than twice the amount of time compared to the benchmark. So their collection period is how often they will receive money from their customers once they purchase the plants or the instant landscapes. And now the average pay period that they pay back their suppliers is 26.9 days for the benchmark, and then Horniman is 10 days. So now you can see that is almost 3 times as quick as what the benchmark is doing. So at first glance, you would say they're very efficient, they're able to pay their bills on time, they're constantly getting that cash flow going, but in the long scheme of things, what Maggie wants to do, since she's the one in charge of the finances, she wants to receive a trade discount from the suppliers. So she is willing to sacrifice their time in order to collect as much money from their customers in order to actually pay their suppliers back to receive a discount. So what this entails is Bob is very lenient with their credit terms with the customers, which means it's going to cause a slow cash conversion cycle because more money is actually going out quicker than what is actually being received.
All right, this leads us to the problem. Hortiman Horticulture has above average margins compared to other horticulture businesses. This will lead to high growth rates, and due to the lack of financial stability, this could be potentially harmful. Since growth is going to require more employees, more equipment, and most importantly, more land, it's going to require more financing, and due to Maggie's aversion of bank borrowing, since Maggie is averse to bank borrowing, it harms their ability to acquire capital. In addition to Maggie's bank aversion, they're struggling to manage their accounts receivable and accounts payable policies. Right now, Bob is allowing 50.9 days for customers to pay back their goods, and the industry average is only 21.8 days, and that's a huge gap. And since Maggie really wants to get the trade discount, she pays the businesses back within 10 days instead of 30 days, and that means that the cash balance is constantly eroding, thus causing money to go out faster than it's coming in. And this lack of cash is harmful to the company because they could be reinvesting this money in potentially profitable projects. Even though they have really strong profits due to their accounts receivable policy, accounts payable policy, and this long inventory turnover, this causes them to have a lack of cash. But we have potential alternatives for them. So some solutions, one would be to solve the low cash amounts problem. A way to do this would be change receivable and payables policy. Next would be plan how to manage large growth. They can take on an investor to gain net worth. And then lastly, they can slow down the growth and consider other options that could be better.
Like currently, the company's average receivable period is 50.9 days instead of 26.9. So and they have increased their business from last few years. They should just change their policies to make because of the small nurseries they are not paying them quicker. Because of that, their cash cycle is lower. So they should change it that to maybe lower that down to 30 days. So maybe they will get their cash quicker and they can pay their suppliers. For the accounts payable, right now they are in a debt and they are not financing. Like Maggie doesn't believe in the financing, so because of that they are not financing any debt. So their debt is increasing instead of reducing. And Maggie decided to take a 2% discount and paying to the supplier in 10 days. Instead of that, they should change it to like currently their accounts payable period is like 10 days, so they should change it to 20 to 25 days or 30 days. At the average for accounts payable days are like 26.9. So if they receive the more money from a customer quicker and they can pay it back to the supplier quicker, and so they will lose their 2% discount, but the 2% discount doesn't affect that much on their statements. And the best way for them to do is to reduce the accounts receivable days to like 30 days or 25 days, and increase the accounts payable day from 10 days to the 25 days. So that will help them to bring their cash level higher.
Okay, so now we'll go on to the growth strategy, and we believe that slow growth strategy is the way to go. And as we mentioned earlier, and as we'll mention in more detail later on, the financial statements, they have shown growth in both the revenue and the profit margins, which is great with any company. That's one thing you look for is how's the revenues doing, how's the profit margins with the company, are they increasing every year to year. And the thing is with those is that too fast can be a real problem, because once growth starts taking off, it's really easy to lose track of your company and staying focused with your products and your product line and where your products are heading towards, and if you're going to be able to keep up with that pace of the high exponential growth. And then also the cash supply is too low right now to finance those purchases to match that exponential increasing growth. So if they're wanting to grow and expand, they're going to need to purchase the land, which we'll explain in the next point, but the land, the more equipment, employees to help nurture, to help maintain the land, help to cultivate the land in order to take care of everything and make sure everything's in check in order in terms of products, shipping them out, delivery, assistance, anything that they need to do service-wise for their customers. And as I mentioned, the slowly increasing the growth rate, this can also combat the low cash supply that they're having. So we noticed going through the study that one of the main problems that they're focusing on and trying to improve is their low cash supply. And this has to do with a couple factors, mainly due to low cash supply by not wanting to finance through debt, which is okay, there's other alternatives, but that is one of the main reasons why cash supply is so low. And the growth, the thing is, the main point to understand is that growth that's under control, you're able to handle it and maintain it. So as it grows, the growth slowly grows, you can control your business, your products, thus creating higher demand for your products. And when you have higher demand for your products and you're able to deliver a consistent, high-quality product, then you're able to make more sales, and thus increasing revenues and increasing the cash supply. So we have a few suggested course of actions. Our first one here would be to change the receivables policy. As was mentioned earlier, their receivables policy is through the roof, ridiculous compared to where the benchmark is at. Right now, the average, we suggest that they should go around 21 days, because right now it's around 50 days, which is crazy ridiculous, but that's just Bob's nature, wanting to be nice and friendly to everyone and be business partners, have good relations with them, but too much can be a burden on the company with their cash supply and adversely affecting what they're wanting to do growth-wise and where they're going. And like I said, this will raise the cash levels if they adjust their policy, and it will give the receivables a penalty that if they don't turn them in, so kind of give them
like, okay, I need to go turn this in before I get penalized. Because right now, they're just sitting on their cash and not wanting to pay it off because they know they can just put it off for days and days, a lot longer than any other business. So that's what they're going to do, so they can do what they want with the money they have. And the second option, the course of action that we suggest, is the change the accounts payable policy. And this would be them paying off their suppliers, so then in 10 days get 2%. And we said, scratch this, go for the 20, 25 days, don't worry about the 2%, because in the long run, they'll have enough cash on hand to pay for those payments, rather than having to worry about hitting that 10-day mark just so they get 2%. They need the cash to make those payments, rather than worry about how they're going to pay for those payments, and still have enough cash to do what they want, to grow, and to go to other places and expand their business. So this leads me to the final point that to not go through with the additional plot of land they're looking forward to, and mainly because it costs a lot of capital, which right now they don't have a lot of cash on hand, and this can cause a huge burden. And as you can probably guess, it would be very risky to make a huge investment into it because they won't see a return for a while. But at the same time that it's risky, it also has a high payoff. If things were to pay off and they were to manage with their low cash values, then it could return to be very profitable and rewarding for them.
Alright, so here we have the forecast for 2006. We have the first one here on the left. This is what their goal is, what they're hoping for when they bought the farmland based on the 30% growth they talked about in the case. And then the one on the right is our personal strategy that we recommend. It's a slow growth strategy. And starting with the forecast that if they did buy the farmland. So like I said, they're expecting 30% growth rate in revenue. And then we have the cost of goods sold would also jump by a large increase to 25% as sales increase. And then when we talked about how the cost of goods sold ratio has gone down. Next, the depreciation would increase, we said 12%, because they're buying farmland and more fixed assets for that farmland. So that will increase depreciation. The accounts receivable increase 25%. We talked about earlier how we were trying to implement a better strategy to help make that more efficient. That's obviously, they can't be all fixed in 1 year, but so that's still going to increase, but not quite as much as sales. The inventory will increase 30% because if they buy more farmland, they're going to have a lot more plants. Like I said, more machinery, everything is all going to increase with that. As well as the net fixed assets will also increase about 15%. Accounts payable, we said should about stay the same at this point if they were to try to keep, still have that 2% discount in this strategy. The net worth would increase about 30% because they have more farmland, more opportunity for revenue growth. But just keep in mind, this is also what they're hoping for. This is what they're expecting, 30% growth, but it is also a more risky strategy because they're not sure, because they don't have cash to purchase the new farmland right now. Next, with the slow growth strategy, we chose about 8% for the revenue growth as well. So cost of goods sold would go about 6%. Depreciation would stay about what it was for the past few years, about 10%. They're not buying any more machinery; they're just keeping what they have, so that'll just stay the same. Accounts receivable will only go about 5% because sales is only increasing so much, so accounts receivable will increase a little bit that much as well. Inventory increased about 5%. See, it's pretty much growing from year to year, but then also they don't need to buy as much now. Net fixed assets will increase about 2% because obviously they're not buying farmland, they don't need any more machinery, they're just kind of staying where they are right now. Accounts payable will go about 20% because we said the new strategy, we're going to go ahead and try and disregard the discount and help increase our cash balance. And the net worth, for now, it'll increase about 5% because they're staying the same. Excuse me, but so as you can see, some of the major difference between these two strategies is you can see the cash balance is about 65 for the bought farmland compared to 376 if they're a slow growth strategy. So it makes it much more liquid, could be more advantageous, which is what Maggie would like. And that's end of our financial analysis on case 11 of performing culture.
Awesome. Great. Just at this one for